Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. I'm Robert Adichie, and I'm here with Ulisses Spila, Ulisses International, and we're talking about the Theater Knights adventure. We're doing a read-through on Part 1, which is the White Lake Theater Knights Part 1. This is Part 1 of 6, but only the first 3 have been translated and released so far in English. The other 3, the reason we're bringing this up is because the other 3 will be coming out in the Gods of Aventuria crowdfunding, which we just announced is going to be in July, the end of July. So July 21st through the 11th of, through the, where are we at? July 21st through the 11th, July 21st through August 11th. So check that out when it comes out. For now, we're kind of just doing a read through to catch you up. If you're not familiar with the Theater Knights, it's a large campaign. There has been, in addition to these 3 books, there is also a kind of campaign guide that came out in the Warring Kingdoms, I think, or no, sorry, Gods of Aventuria Kickstarter. So check those out if you want more and more background for the Theater Knights. So we just started reading last week. We started reading basically the introduction, and it kind of just talked about the very overall plot of the not even plot, but just themes really, and as well as how to read the adventure. So we kind of went through that. I really like how we're doing the kind of gives you details about how to run the adventure. So for example, this looking right here, on the right here, there's different NPC symbols to show you how important the NPC is to the game, whether you can just, as players want to do, just kind of sometimes kill someone or just ignore them or whatever. But it kind of says if they're important to the adventure or not, and what you can do if if they need to be replaced. And as well here, there's information on to make the scene easier or harder. So we kind of went through this stuff. Went through the very introduction as far as kind of what's going on. And so I definitely encourage you, if you have not caught up to us at this point, go back to last week's show, or sorry, to last Friday's show, and you can watch the beginning of it, or you can grab the PDF on drive-through and check that out. If you're watching the stream right now, the images that are showing up, those are all going to be images from Gods of Aventuria, so that's why they are there. It talked about kind of the adventure, and it kind of talks about here, the campaign consists of 6 volumes, and so we're just going over the first one right now, and we're just kind of doing a read through to kind of see where everyone is at. There's also some bonus content that you can catch on ulysses-us.com in the download section. And then this section talked about why heroes would be adventuring and why they would be involved in this adventure. And the story so far. So we've got this story about this. By the way, there are spoilers in this, so if you are thinking you're going to might possibly play this adventure at some point, you might want to catch another stream. But this one is about this drum. Part of it is about this drum, the Atmos drum, I think it was called. But they talk about what the history of this drum is and how it's going to be used in this adventure, the Thorwald drum. So that was what was going on here. This symbol means this is an important event that's happening in the adventure. So I kind of like I said, I like these different symbols they have. Makes it easy to know it's important. It talks about this event called the Awakening, which is just strange magical forces happening, and it kind of tells you that it's sort of happening, but it's kind of going to be in the background, and it's going to kind of come out later, which is another cool aspect. You start laying down hints and clues of what's happening, and later on when these events become important, then you can say, oh yeah, I remember this happened a long time ago, and it makes the world feel much more real to your players. So let's start here. The road to adventure. This is really the first section of the actual adventure. So in this segment of the adventure, the heroes meet a mage named Ulko Nak and travel to the Hardin Lake district during the onset of winter. Along the way, they experience some effects of the awakening and find their first clues about the machinations of the Alliance of Kor's sign. By the end, they should have achieved the following. The heroes meet one of their 3 possible employers and learn about the Thorwall drum. The heroes promise to see the Thorwall drum delivered peacefully to Topinski and Jurislav in the Hardin Lake district. The heroes learn that Jani revealed a secret that could be connected to the drum, and that she and Bruch were kidnapped by Jurislav. The heroes accompany Oko to Hardin and get into an altercation with Rudjev of Araucan, who, pleasing unto Kor, preaches the tradition of the theater knights and testifying hatred against the Norbards and moneybags. The city of Festum. Read aloud or paraphrase. Oh, by the way, while we're reading this, those of you that are in the chat, if you want to, comment on if you've played this adventure, let us know what you thought about it. Let me know, if you've done, if you ran into any specific instances about sections that we're reading, so that other people can benefit from your knowledge. I'll make sure to read those in the chat. So go for it. So the city of Festum, skillfully designed by the theater knights, the smooth and tidy roads of Bornland are the pride of the powerful trade houses. On all sides of the great market, you'll find the beautiful neighborhoods of the great burghers and guild masters. Toward the harbor are quays and warehouses, as well as goblin and Maraskin neighborhoods, flanked by the warehouse islands, source of the Festooners' wealth. Many refugees from Tobrians still live outside the city walls in the shabby huts of day laborers and longshoremen, which stand in sharp contrast to the villas of the river and the scholarly rooms of Hasinde's village. Festum is a city of traders. Here one can buy almost anything that is traded on Aventurian oceans. There are temples to each of the 12 gods and their children, and even temples to Rastula and Rur and Gror. Apart from the countless taverns and inns, the city boasts concert halls, theaters, academies, museums, and even a zoo. And let's not forget Norbard Meadow, where the hailskins of 4 Norbard families, or Meshpokas, await the onset of winter. Festum, city of wealth. So it gives some details. I'm not going to read all these details right now, but it kind of gives some details about the city itself, the population, how it's governed, major pubs, special features. When they arrive, what happens? The mood in the city. Maybe I'll read some of this. So, arrival. The heroes could find themselves in Bornland's capital for a variety of reasons. Perhaps they traveled here over the coastal road between Neersund and Valusa, or sailed from the north along the Bjorn, the country's largest river. Mood in the city. Metropolitan feel. Citizens are very proud of their city and the freedoms they enjoy. Rumors in Festum. When the heroes try to gather information, they might hear gossip and hearsay. Rumors are marked with a plus true or a minus false, or a plus minus, which is partially true and partially false. The heroes can receive the following rumors on their way to Hardin, giving them a pretty good picture of interesting topics in Bjornland. The new Bjornian national pride, the prejudices against Norbards and goblins, the old arguments between nobles and burghers, and the awakening. So here are some of the general rumors. We have it all here. Goblins, Maraskins, Norbards, Navis. There's even a temple of Rastula. Does it work? Well, I say there are all sorts, eh? That's got a plus by it, so that's pretty much true. Old Storbart left ages ago, and the Free Alliance took over the trade. It's much better now, despite the many Norbards. It helps the city. You must visit Hasinde's village. There is so much to do there. Concert halls, galleries, a pleasant nightlife, and a very cultured audience. Have you heard about the riots during the Atmascot parade in the spring? The city guard took quite a beating, but it's their own fault. They should restrict their cruel spectacle to the warehouse island, as they have in the past. So that's kind of one of the major points and set off of the adventure, is the Atmascot parade. War against Hafax. Soon there will be no more demon slaves in the south. The Empress declared a call to arms in the Midden Realm, and the Bornean bear will fight alongside the Garthan fox. That's a little bit of true and false. Lingen of Illinois is gathering all of the Bjornland's fearless warriors. They'll defeat Helmi Half-Axe for sure. Does Lingen pay well? Ha! You're not from around here, are you? Which is true, apparently. Racial understanding. So this is probably about the goblins here. I have no issues with goblins as long as they stay in the Tanner's Quarter and make themselves useful. It's all good. It's a matter of opinion. Thorwaller's scum. 100 years ago, Atmascot Blooddrinker laid siege to our great city, but we showed him. We skinned him and had him drawn and quartered. And then there's stuff about the awakening. Recently, ghost sightings are becoming increasingly common. It's superstitious nonsense, of course. Old Norbar fortune tellers spread these tales to drive more business their way, which is not true. The land is awakening, and it steals the people's power. That's why I'm always so tired in the morning. It's possible, but not for sure, apparently. And my brother-in-law's normally peaceful dog got mad about something and attacked his ox. Just bit down. It wouldn't let go. He had to choke the beast to get it to let go. It was horrible. Scenes of Festoon. Use the following scenes, which introduce campaign themes, present typical conflicts, and give the heroes a feeling for the growing patriotism in Bornland to describe the good mood in Festoon. The Angry Bjornar. Gurin of Groensk. Wet pants. 40 potbelly. Balding at the temples. So this has this little pawn symbol. And if we go back up, it'll tell us that those are people that, that we can swap out. Carries a mace at his belt. He has willpower. And there's another character. Is standing in front of the heroes at the shop of Yandrim Twigler, a Free Alliance trader. The noble is short on cash and wants to use his good name to put items on credit, as he has done for years. But the Free Alliance no longer allows credit purchases. Rioters plundered many of the shops and stole their list of debtors during the Atmascot riots. Angrily, the Bjornar challenges the trader to a duel and asks the characters to be his witness. The trader threatens to have a professional swordsman take his place in the duel, whose fee the Free Alliance would pay. If the heroes don't take control of the situation with a successful intimidation check, threats, or fast talk manipulate check, the irate noble returns the goods and leaves. The Tanner's Journeyman. From the stall of the goblin leather merchant, Sulfried Siedemann, the heroes hear someone yell, "Catch that thief," and see Norbard Wasili Gotohuis fleeing with a bundle beneath his arm. If the heroes do not react, other people are present to stop the boy. The guards arrest Wasili, although he claims he is innocent. He says he tried to sell leather to Sulfried, but refused to accept an unfair price. The goblin then tried to blackmail him and called for the guards, so Wasili ran. Sulfried claims he paid for the leather, but the Norbard wanted to keep his goods and the money. However, he has no proof of this. In fact, the young Norbard speaks the truth, but it is his word against Sulfried's. The goblin has a burglar's letter, and Wasili is a stranger and of age. Therefore, according to the city law, Wasili will lose his right hand if the heroes cannot convince the sergeant of the guard, Veltinger, to free him with a successful fast talk check. Interesting. The veteran, a former mercenary, Yavdij Hornfield, begs the heroes for money. Mutilated during the battle against the Marauders of Uriel's campaign nearly 20 years ago, she must beg to survive. If the heroes give her something, a city guard named Werner Ruffinger unexpectedly claps him on the shoulder to salute their respect for the home country's defenders. If not, she investigates the heroes, as they obviously have no respect for the Bjornian homeland. Farina's stats use the stats of a guard. Interesting. The Red Choir. A group of 24 goblins wearing Priosidae clothing, led by a young Minrummer composer, Rekded Wheelwright, take position in the market. They are part of the Red Choir and an opera project from Hasinde's village meant to integrate the goblins into Festum society. With a short speech, the wheelwright informs the curious audience who they are and announces their plans for a big performance during the noble marshal's election next winter. Then the choir sings a sad patriotic song with impressive melancholy. We suggest Othir's Vaterland from Franz Schubert's opera Fierabras. Nice. There's some images of Festum. Possible employers. Someone the heroes trust who shares similar goals and values should request their involvement. Here are 3 examples of possible employers, all of whom pay at most a reward of 20 bahts per head, but only half the sum in advance. Any of these employers will also provide the heroes a Koleshka coach, 4 seats inside, 2 on the coach box and standing from the back if need be, for use during their assignment. 3 Warwick horsers, Deitlane, brown, Jurna, brown with a white blaze, and Osira, white with brown spots, pull the Koleshka, which is driven by a coachwoman, Maria Termunden, because of her old bones. Oh, she wears blankets because of her old bones. 1 seat is taken by Adeptus Oko Nak, who will travel with the heroes. Perhaps an acquaintance recommends the heroes to the employer. The employer notices them during some heroic deed they perform in the city, or they are simply paid with the bond from the Northern Bank that is signed by their employer. If the task seems too great for the heroes, it is not a problem. It is possible the employer has misjudged the actual size of Timsky's band. Information about the task. The heroes should receive the following information from their employer. It says, following this up, says, this riot was the subject of the heroic works adventure, the Thorwall Drum. All important facts from that adventure are included here in this scenario. So if you wanted to have like a pre-adventure sort of, you could run the Thorwall Drum. So beating the Thorwall Drum during the city guard's Atmascot parade is tradition, but it caused a riot Lake Spring. This riot might be connected to the Awakening. Due to the events, the Grand Council discussed abolishing the parade, but initially the various factions dig their heels in, and for a long time now, it has seemed that a firm decision one way or the other is not possible. Captain Timsky of the City Guard advocates continuing the parades. Many traditional festumers agree with him, as do some of the patriotic nobles who live outside the city. Most of Timsky's opponents are minorities who feel threatened by the parade, goblins, Norbards, Maraskani exiles, and many small traders. Alwyn K. Nordruger is their spokesman. The Sergilaf successfully plotted to steal the drum and took it to the Hardin district, where 3 Norbard families live on houseboats. For more about the theft, see the heroic works adventure, the Thorwall Drum. Timsky raises funds to purchase the drum, but also gathered armed men to take it back if he could not purchase it. Tempers are flaring. The houseboats are safe for now, but the Norbards could die when the lake freezes over. The heroes must join Timsky and ensure a peaceful exchange. While this will not end the arguments about the Thorwall Drum, the factions are beginning to relax, and perhaps the Grand Council can finally come to a decision. The employer's role. The employer you choose affects the future adventures in the campaign. However, all 3 are traveling to Bjornland, are interested in the Awakening, and share the hero's position that the Alliance of course sign are enemies. Perhaps sometime after the adventure, the heroes might want to discuss an important question with their employer. What does the land want from us? I see there's a few more folks, so welcome. We are reading through the Theater Nights Volume 1, the White Lake, and we've kind of just gotten into the first task of the heroes. They're supposed to looks like they're supposed to go with Captain Timsky to get the Thorwall Drum, and to make sure that they don't start a fight. Timsky doesn't start a fight with the Norbians, with the, what are they? Norbards. And what's coming up here is 3 possible employers, so people that might want to employ them to go do this thing. So Umerika Sergilaf, brief description: mid-50s, expert trader, petite, subtle but expensive clothing, tight braid, strangely unmoving brow. Employer of businesslike or shady heroes. Background. Umerica was involved in transporting the drum to the Speckles, but wants to keep this secret. Her plan to calm the situation by getting rid of the drum did not work because she underestimated Timsky's ambitions and the number and generosity of his supporters. If the repulsive drum must return to the city, she feels the Norbards of the Speckles should at least profit from the transaction. Animosities, laziness, impertinence, and superficiality. Portrayal tips. Keep your body straight. Hold your hands. Move your body rarely. Your head more often. Speak softly and politely. Be brief but precise. Some role-playing tips. That's nice. Special. The heroes receive a bilingual document, Garethi and Alani, written in Cusselisk signs, stating that they are representatives of the Surgelofs. It provides a -1 charisma to etiquette, fast talk, and commerce checks when dealing with nobles and Timbinsky's men, and a +1 charisma to those checks when dealing with Norbards. Read aloud or paraphrase. The leader of the Surgeloff trade house greets the heroes in the contour in a surprisingly quiet room with wooden veneer. An extremely tidy desk and large filing cabinet dominate this room. She speaks politely and soberly, always befitting the social standing of the hero she is addressing. 2 bald Norbard men with big muscles, glorious mustaches, and sharp sabers stand discreetly within shouting distance. Rumors regarding the Surgelofs. Their trade house is among the most powerful in all the land. Their hero, Igroj, is a true socialite. And then there's his sister. What's her name again? These Norbards, they're cheaters, all of them. I'm glad they're not allowed to own property in the Bjornland. But here in Festum, the laws of the theater knights are ignored. I greatly respect the Surgelofs. When my shop was doing badly, they gave me credit, and the interest was fair. Yeah, I heard the Surgelofs had the Thorwald drum stolen from the city guard's headquarters. If that's true, I'm done with them. Good for them. If they did have that miserable drum taken out of the city, now there might be some progress on the Grand Council. And here's Magister Emeritus Alwyn Nodwinger. 78, a brilliant mage, chic, expensive mage robes in traditional design, always smoking a smelly pipe, thin, reedy voice, and talkative. So he's another possible representative, a possible employer. Function, employer of the scholarly and humorous heroes. Background, Nodwinger is a sympathetic and far-traveled object mage. As a Council of the Arts member, he hears many rumors about the drum conflict and from the Ground Council. Breaking the stalemate in the Ground Council is important to him, but he is more eager to ensure the well-being of Ulko, his student. Animosities, stupidity, deviousness, and intolerance. Portrayal trips. Be scientific, absent-minded, and old-fashioned. Get caught up in conversation and lost in details. Gesticulate wildly. Always speak as though you have a pipe in your mouth. Special. The heroes receive papers identifying them as representatives of Mercury Hall, the Mage Academy. Presenting this document would help or hinder with their negotiations with either party. Roll 1d6. On a 1 to 3, the heroes receive +1 charisma to all etiquette, manners, fast talk, and commerce. On a 4 to 6, they suffer. That's whimsical. All right. The old mage lives near the city stage in a half-timbered house decorated with many avant-garde paintings and sculptures. He greets the heroes with a warm handshake in his rather chaotic library. He snaps his fingers and a cart with tea and pastries rolls over. Again and again he lights his pipe with the same small flame from the tip of his index finger. To open the lock on his magically secured safe and give the heroes their prepayment, he is forced to use the last charge in his magical ring. He must do so because he cannot remember the keyword, even after 3 attempts. Rumors about Magister Nodwinger. See this salt shaker? The Magister himself enchanted it. It wasn't cheap, but as long as I use it to season my food, no one can poison me. I admit that it is sometimes a bit unpleasant on my dessert. A little salty. He loves to smoke pipes. He's said to have 3 dozen or so. Some say he smokes to drive away the gnats. You know, mages. The Magister sometimes gives interdisciplinary universal knowledge seminars in the garden at the Temple of Hisinde. He talks about his travels to Kunkum and so on. It's confusing but interesting. The Magister represents the Council of Arts and the Grand Council. He opposed the Atmos parades from the beginning. At first, I thought he was being overly cautious, but when the riot started, I realized his wisdom. And here is the third employer. Juco of Elkinen in Ramsford. Brief description: 45, excellent warrior, inexperienced politician. First streaks of gray in his hair, a dimple on his chin, plain chainmail overcoat, average coat with elk fur trimmings, powerful voice. Function: employer of heroes who are warriors, nobles, and other dignitaries. Background: Juco is an ethical, lucky bastard with a youthful charm. He is tolerant and suffers the anguish of lofty chivalrous ideals. For nearly a decade, he has supervised the few estates in Bjornland, small dots spread out over the land, so he's rarely in festoon. During the troubles about the drum, he took a stand against the parades, and since then, many blame him for the drum's disappearance. These accusations bring him hateful glances and challenges to duels, as well as a rebuke from the noble marshal, who does not want her commanders involved in city politics. He wants to save his reputation, but in a subtle manner. Animosities, cowardice, dishonor, and boredom. Portrayal tips: make grand, slow gestures, mistakenly use rude expressions, and notice too late that they are inappropriate for your social standing, but laugh off the embarrassment, unruffled like a true statesman. Nice. Special: the heroes receive papers identifying them as representatives of the steward. -1 to etiquette, fast talk, and commerce when dealing with Norbards. +1 with these checks among nobles and Dembinski's men. Read aloud or paraphrase. The Bjornian steward greets the heroes in the Lion Castle outside Festoon. He has a splinted leg and a fresh scar on his brow. Dusty trophies of his many adventures line the castle's cobweb-covered walls. His nicked two-handed sword, which he calls a martinet, stands in the corner of his drafty study. Rumors about Juco. 10 years ago, by accident, it's said, he almost became the noble marshal, but Ashford, the drunk, was chosen instead. Our Juco is a tireless fighter for all that is just. That's why he remained the steward under the new noble marshal. He's also an extremely lucky bastard. Noble Marshal Najesha lets Juco stay in office only because of his good looks. She doesn't have a suitor yet, and that's why Lingen of Eleno can't stand him. Lingen wants Najesha for himself. Juco has participated in the noble marshal's marathon. Such a brave man. Unfortunately, he ran in the wrong direction and didn't win. Alternative ways to meet the employers. If it seems unlikely that your heroes would seek out these employers on their own, make contact through a mentor or good friend who recommends or is indebted to one of them. The heroes could meet Magister Nodwinger through Reichstad Willwright, a composer and the Red Choir's musical director, or through Mankta Reba, goblin sorceress and leader of the goblins in Festoon. Many former colleagues, acquaintances from his travels, and tolerant blessed ones enjoy having discussions with the Histhindian mage and support him whenever possible. Any of them would also serve to introduce him. Mystics with a connection to nature can contact Umerika Sergilov, though the witch Bermiska of Jasula, or through Mokasha's high priestess Beta Bavadis. Umerika also has connections to the mistress of the Free Alliance, Radula Sorensky, as well as the industrious long-distance traders and crafters in Festoon. She might even agree to meet disreputable characters if well-known figures from the underworld were to recommend them. High-ranking honorable heroes could be sent to meet Juco of Elkinen, Bagorot of Halsingen, master of the domain of the Church of Randra, one of the warrior academies, the noble marshal herself, or even the devious Juco of Dalathan and Persenzig, who founded the Order of the Ram and has contacts as far away as the Eurasian Empire. Oko. This young mage should accompany the heroes on their journey. It would be nice if they decided to help Oko on their own. However, any of the following scenes could also provide a reason to bring him along. When Oko eventually reveals his rescue plans, he tries to conceal the secret he learned from Johnny. So he's trying to rescue the goblins that were taken by Chimpsky or the other, I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look. Debts. A hero bets or plays a game against Oko. If Oko wins, instead of demanding payment, he'll request a seat on the Kaleshka. If Oko loses, he admits he has no money, but offers to work off his debt on the journey. Bluff. A hero runs into a trouble in one of Festoon's bad alleys. Oko drives away the rogues with a daring bluff. If I expand this ball of light, a greasy stain will be all that's left of you. To repay Oko, the heroes can take him along on their journey. We'll go. While confronting the depressed goblin, Prienwart, see page 8, in the student-frequented tavern called the Temple of the Ram and Grog, Oko raises his glass and swears he will try to save Johnny and Brooch. If the hero raises their glass too, he is confident they will join him. You can use this scene before the heroes meet their employer. Bodyguards. If necessary, Nodwinger can hire the heroes to protect Oko. He knows of Oko's plans, but he also knows that the rules of the Codex Albiricus might not be enough to protect Oko from a confrontation with angry Bjornars. He wishes to keep his concerns secret from Oko. Even if a different employer hires the heroes, Nodwinger can claim a favor to bring up the request of Oko's protection. Oko Nak, Adeptus Minor. Brief description: 20. Experienced guild mage, Nodwinger's favorite student, lanky, strawberry, blonde hair, light beard with some gaps in growth, wears a gray mage's robe with a symbol stitched on the hem, wears thick clothes beneath it in the winter, which make him look bulky. Motivation. Oko wants to save his friends, Brooch and Johnny. He feels responsible for Johnny's banishment because he wrote down the drum ritual. His scientific ethos forbids him from destroying his notes for his friends, which only reinforces his feelings of obligation. Agenda. Accompanies the heroes and helps whenever possible. Is thrilled to finally go on an adventure like those he has read so much about. Goes above and beyond when fighting for minorities' rights. Function. Idealistic, likable ally. Well-read young man with ideas so lofty he needs protection. Background. Oko and some fellow students started holding intellectual gatherings where he met and became friends with Johnny and Brooch. His knowledge of adventuring is limited to what he has read in books, and he wants to prove himself. His determination makes up for his lack of experience. He shows great enthusiasm and has a strong sense of justice. As a follower of Nandas, he is convinced the Bjornland's splintered principalities must become one nation. Only then can all the people have dignity, freedom, and equality. If it comes up in conversation, he praises the goblins' warm culture, peaceful matriarchy, and naivety toward sex and death. He is quick to befriend goblins and other minorities, and sometimes outdoes himself with daring bluffs when fighting for their rights. He has great respect for real heroes and helps them whenever possible. Animosities, injustice, disloyalty, and self-pity. Portrayal tips. Act enthusiastic, tolerant, and open. Use loan words often. Discuss topics of interest with passion, yet rationally and respectfully. Disarm tense situations with a friendly laugh. Fate. He doubts his suspicions about the power of the drum ritual. Experiencing the bloodlust himself damages his worldview. The Alliance for Coruscant kidnaps Oko later during this campaign, and the heroes are unable to rescue him right away. These events further serve to severely rattle the young mage's mind. Special. A small notebook which he often writes in, strips of otter fur hanging beneath the rim of his pointy mage's hat, which can be tied under his chin to keep his ears warm. You see, if we were a nation, you wouldn't have to listen to his bridge baron's insolence. Have you seen it? Just like the knight Rondomir in the Final Atonement. I've got this. The journey to Hardin. So this is assuming that they've accepted and they'll be on their way to get the drum. So the heroes begin their journey about 2 weeks after Timsky's force sets out, and about 1 week after the goblins were captured. Their route consists of 3 parts. First, they travel along the Bjorn Road, named for the river that runs alongside the road to Hamilton, and then on toward Sherrydale. From there, they proceed along a dirt road to Hardin itself. We presume the heroes use the Koleshka coach provided by their employer. If they decide to journey on foot, their travel time doubles. From Festoon to Holga. The trip from Festoon to Holga takes 2 days by Koleshka, 4 days on foot. The path leads the heroes alongside the Bjorn Road. Although the village of Aldero inhabits 300, famous for its dried, fermented, and distilled cherries, as well as its alderware mandrake men carvings. The heroes spend their first night in Nivasel. a small town settled by the theater knights shortly after the founding of Festum. Some of the buildings from that time still remain. In the marketplace, Gertie hovers nearby, offering a guided tour for 1 farthing per person. Her tour includes the sight of the old city gate, some collapsed walls, and an old tower without a roof. She can share some common knowledge about the theater knights. They were a powerful order. They were pleasing unto Randra. They freed the born then for the goblins, and they were defeated by the devious Sun Legion of the Emperor priests. There's Olkonak's stats. Bjornland in winter. The first snow begins to fall in Bjornland during the effort in 1039 FB. There is a strong frost by the time the harvest festival ends at the beginning of Trevia. The lakes are already freezing over, and more snow will fall from Boron on. The roads are busier than in milder years, as people want to finish their business quickly, whether transporting the last harvest to town, storing food for the winter, or simply trying to reach their winter homes. There is not yet enough snow to close the roads, but the large snowbanks make travel difficult. There is an overall cold level of 2, see Core Rules, page 346, appropriate winter clothes, and traveling in the Kaleshka prevents hypothermia. For more information about traveling through snow and ice, see page 56. Eventually, the heroes must continue their journey on foot and find they have few opportunities to warm themselves in taverns. So this is the symbol of the awakening. A tree root grew so quickly under an old tower that it damaged the interior stairs. If the heroes use their imaginations, they see what looks like a screaming face in the tree bark. Oko insists on taking a closer look using magic and attempts to climb the tree to cast an Odin Arcanum. He asks for help to reach the top, a successful climbing trees check. If he fails, he suffers falling damage from a height of 6 feet, and his assistant, if any, suffers 1d3 damage points, ignoring Pro, from being struck by the falling mage's body. After passing through Flowerfield, inhabitants 50, on the second evening of their travels, here a ferry at a cost of 1 farthing per leg crosses over to Holga. So here's Festum. Man, we're traveling to... Let's see, where did it say? We were going to Holga and then to Hardin. Let's see. I don't see any of those here. Not sure which direction we're traveling in. I mean, it said it was along the Bjorn River, so maybe there's Aldero. There's Hilgen. I don't see Hardin or Holgen, though. So, rumors during the journey. Yeah, I just don't see that. Rumors during the journey. Timsky's men, as well as Johnny and Brooch, visited each town the heroes stop at or pass through, and some of the innkeepers and travelers remember them. About Timsky's force. The captain was ranting about the homeless Norbard scum and crows from the Free Alliance. Said they didn't care about tradition and stole a war drum. It was the Festooners' pride or something like that. Yes, they were here about 2 weeks ago, I'd say. They had a chest with them. Heavy thing, and they kept watching over it, probably containing some treasure. There were maybe 20 of them, and their leader hired some additional mercenaries here in the tavern. A Thorwaller was among them. About the goblins. I don't usually allow goblins in here, but they were dressed decently, and they paid well, so I thought, why not? I have slain 5 goblins myself, but there was something about this goblin. Nobody dared get near him. They told great stories about the knight Randramir and the princess Alrike. Some of their stories were a bit cheesy, but they sure knew a great many. About Jurislav, always brawling and cheating on his wife, and him married to such a nice baroness. He thinks he must prove himself, so he always travels with the whole lance-worths of followers, squire, groom, serfs, and a dog. He can't stand the Norbards. I wouldn't be surprised if he followed those mercenaries. Overheard in Holga. They were here about a week ago. The Lord of Cherrydale, Krabitz had it out for those goblins. When they paid, he said their money was stolen. He tied up 2 of them. Third one ran away. Well, it is what it is. He went to Cherrydale, which was his mother's rules, which his mother rules. Yeah, don't get me started. So there's a sign that says to Cherrydale. So this says Hilgen, so that must be Hulgan. Holga must be the same place. Because I don't see anything else. All right, scenes with Oko. Use the following scenes to expand Oko's personality and bind the useful travel companion more strongly to the heroes. The pipe. In the Kaleshka or during dinner at one of their stops, Oko lights a pipe with a special blend and offers to share it with the heroes. Heroes who partake must make a successful carousing check or suffer one level of the condition confusion. The villain's beard. An insolent noble or traitor, coachman or dwarf, harasses Oko. Oko challenges the annoying man to a drinking contest with a 20 bats bet the man cannot afford. Oko accepts the man's beard as a bet instead. Half a keg of Skinners later, Oko falls from his chair, dead drunk, but having won the bet. The mage suffers through his werewolf, honors the beard, and eventually gives in to a hero in exchange for saving his life. What? The mage bravely suffers through his werewolf? I guess it's like a... I don't know if... I'm not sure what that means. Honors the beard and eventually gives it to a hero in exchange for saving his life. Not really sure what that means. Single room. When an innkeeper refuses to rent a room to a goblin or a Norbard, preferably a hero, could also be a different minority. Oko becomes enraged. He slaps a handful of silver on the counter and threatens to turn the innkeeper into a newt. Do you know what hibernation is? If his companion does not get the best room for the place. Information from Oko. The heroes can learn more about the love story between Johnny and Brooch from talking with Oko. Have him relate their conversations in his Sinde's village, where he and the goblins sang, drank, and read about legends of the Silver Horde and performed readings from heroic plays by Doghoof. Share how the goblins fell in love after some initial shy meetings, and how Brooch borrowed chainmail to properly propose to Johnny. Make the goblin couple likable, even though their behavior might surprise those who understand goblin culture. By the end of this scene, the heroes should have received the following information. They discussed the ongoing argument about the Thorwald drum during a celebration in Sinde's village. Legend says that the goblin Timble existed during the time of the theater nights. The Kungasula made it from human skin to bring death and terror to the Rondranians, and tales say it could level mountains. Johnny knew these stories, but in the version she told that night, the drum was made from goblin skin and involved the ritual the theater knights stole from the goblins. While drunk, Johnny let slip that there is a goblin ritual to enchant drums. It is for this reason she was sent away. From Holga to Cherrydale. From Holga, the heroes travel through the march. The road to Cherrydale is in decent condition. The road to Cherrydale is in decent condition. It takes the heroes one day to travel the whole 30 midden miles in the Kaleshka, or 2 days on foot. The town of Cherrydale. Inhabitant 600, ruler Duchess Maria of Cherrydale, as the ducal family rules over the counts of Hardin and Holga, as well as the barons of Meskin. Cherrydale is one of the wealthiest towns in the march. Temples. Ranja, Travia, Shrine of Hisinde. Trade and commerce, agriculture, cherries, apple yards, traditional crafts, and a few grocers. So here's what Meeskins is. I don't know how do you pronounce that. Meeskini's liquor made from oats and honey. Kind of like mead, basically. Read aloud or paraphrase. The imposing white wall of Cherrydale and its 5 splendid towers and its cherry and apple orchards covered in snow make your surroundings an almost unreal winter dream. The landscape has steadily grown wilder in the last few hours of our journey, but the town promises an evening and pleasant civilization. The largest wall tower is the home of the Duchess. 2 large white banners bearing the house coat of arms, a circle of 7 white cherry blossoms on a red background, hang to the right and left of the gate. The main street is clean and lined with whitewashed houses, interspersed with grocers, picturesque workshops, and inviting inns. However, beyond the main street, Cherrydale also has its poor sections and hard-working serfs. A successful streetwise check at +1 leads to Bernsha, the person with the most information in Cherrydale, in about 5 minutes. Without a successful check, it takes here an hour or so to find her. Bernsha knows Jaroslav's entourage came into town 2 weeks ago with 2 captured goblins, and they spent the night in the Duchess's tower. The goblins were chained up. Jaroslav claimed it was because they had tried to escape. Visiting the Duchess. Maria of Cherrydale, 64, gray beard, usually worn pinned up, charming, dignified, stern-looking, loves cheese, especially rounded Spauer. Wow, Glaric Beater, hates paperwork, needs entertainment. Is happy to receive the heroes if they make a good impression on our servant, Peter Dublinski. The players must make a successful etiquette check to do so. Each quality level gives a bonus to fast talk against Peter's willpower. Maria automatically receives heroes with advantage of noble. The Duchess tells the heroes her third-born son took the goblins to Hardin Lake District to entertain his men, and he wants to support Tominsky. Without Jaroslav's intercession, she would not have let Pinsky and his company into the town for security reasons. A successful empathy check at +1 reveals the Duchess does not approve of Jaroslav's actions, but does not openly criticize him as he is family. With a successful competitive check using fast talk at +3 or intimidation at +1, or for 5 groats, Peddler gives the heroes the same information and mentions that he doubts whether the goblins will still be alive when the heroes catch up to them. From Cherrydale to Hardin. In the 75 miles from Cherrydale to Hardin, the heroes have the best chance to discover where the Festumers camped. However, the road is much worse than before, and the heroes manage to travel fewer miles each day. With the Kaleshka, it takes them 2 days on foot. On foot, they need 4. Halfway to Hardin, the heroes reach the new hamlet of Stelnitz, which is only a few decades old. This Spartan gathering of stables and barracks essentially serves to accommodate traveling troop formations on their way to Hardin. Over the years, a few farmers settled here to supply the barracks with additional food. Here, the heroes learned Tominsky brought a dozen cows to support his troops just 5 days ago. As the further Bjorners join his cause, his force has grown to an army of nearly 50 men and women. Wolves, an optional scene. Packs of hungry wolves roam the densely wooded area northwest of Cherrydale. As food is scarce during the winter, they are interested in the heroes' horses. The heroes can shake them off with the chase or fight them. Stat for wolves. Although, kind of tells you where you can do chase. Probably find the chase mechanics. It doesn't really say how many wolves, but I guess it's up to the GM. Here's some more map. All right, so there's Hilgen. So Holga was above Hilgen, and then you had Cherrydale. Okay, so it was a little further north. All right, the town of Hardin. There's Cherrydale. There's Hardin. Gotcha. All right, so the town of Hardin is 500 people. The ruler is Countess Bilgun of Hardin. Her family established the barracks. 200 conscripts and 25 warriors of the march. The town of Hardin grew up around the marsh barracks. Almost half of the regiment is stationed here, mostly conscripts, but also captains who were transferred here for disciplinary reasons. The fortress consists of 4 stone guard towers and a double wooden palisade. Inside are parade grounds and barracks, the simple home of Countess Bilgun of Hardin. 30, broad shoulders, expansive brown fur coat with 3 dangling fox heads. Commander of the barracks, loves power, hates snoring, needs a goal in life. And other functional buildings such as arsenals, stores, and stables. The local crafters and mountain cow breeders see to the needs of the barracks, and the serfs work here to keep the soldiers supplied with food. A successful etiquette rumors check at +3 means the heroes already know that the officers who lived here have a bad reputation. Timsky made a good impression on them, but did not convince the officers to accompany him, at least, not yet. Also, Timsky bought cattle here. Jaroslav's retinue came through the town as well, and the goblins he had with him looked quite miserable. The heroes didn't know it yet, but the Festumers' camp is about 15 miles ahead at Deepwater Lake, at the northeastern edge of the Lake District. The Tin Cup. Read aloud or paraphrase. The beer at the Tin Cup is thin and cheap. The meat skins burns your throat, and the smoke-filled room smells like sweat. Nevertheless, customers occupy the barn-like tavern at all hours of the day, and is busiest when guard shifts ends and the conscripts pour in to complain about their instructors and try to impress each other by boasting about their deployments or pranks they have played. The following NPCs are not always present, but many conscripts are similar in nature, so feel free to use their descriptions for any generic conscript. If you like, you can have a conscript reappear later at the Speckles. Like many soldiers in Hardin, conscript Haliva Vorlinsk lives a cycle of guard duty, drinking, and sleeping. She does not have much to say, but likes to drink with new people. Captain Norbo of Deutero Trokin thinks he's an adventurer and tries to seduce women with made-up heroic stories. Having been given grief at the end of her shift by her sergeant, conscript Selwyn Terstingerin is looking for trouble. She tries to provoke a hero and seeks any excuse to brawl. Conscript Erlen Gruber volunteered for his post, but quickly grew disillusioned. He spends his free time at the Tin Cup playing drinking games and throwing daggers. Alliance of Course Sign activists. While at the Tin Cup, the heroes meet their first Alliance of Course Signs member, Rudyev Araukin. She's the early 30s, black hair, handsome, trim beard. Well, I guess he. I don't know why why it was a she. Black-haired, handsome, trim beard, melancholic charm, wears a leather helmet with a neck guard, which conceals the tattoo of the 9-fingered claw on his neck. Loves drums, hates cowards. For more information, see page 22. The second son of a landless Suverian noble house that serves the counts of Notmarch. Rudyev tries to recruit fighters for the Alliance. He is rather careful, though, as the time to reveal the Alliance has not yet come. For now, he spreads propaganda the Alliance can later use to build partnerships, in return to true knightly virtues and the end of the reign of the moneybags. His rhetoric has a profound effect on many unhappy veterans and hot-blooded young soldiers alike. If the heroes present themselves as mercenaries or neutral adventurers, he also addresses them. If not, they witness one of Rudyev's speeches, although they cannot discern his true motives. A warrior wearing a black, studded leather armor raises his voice at the neighboring table, asks loudly, "Who freed the Bjornland from goblins and dark magic?" "The knights, with swords in hand, with shining armor, daring and brave. Who built the roads that carts and coaches drive on? The knights. Who build the guard towers and castles to protect us against the beasts and goblins? The knights." The conscripts at his table begin to murmur in agreement, and he continues, "Why do the fat traders of Vestum think they can rule us and decide where we live, where we work, how we treat our serfs? That's not what our ancestors fought for." More conscripts have gathered closer to the table, some visibly drunk, all nodding and shouting their agreement. He yells, "No, that is not what they have spilled their blood for, what they gave their lives for. They fought for us, warriors, soldiers, and knights, so we could stand on the battlements of our fortresses, swords in hand, and look at our land with honor and pride. That's what they fought for, and to that I drink." Those gathered around the table raise their glasses amid the cheers. The situation dissolves back into the general conversation, but some pat the speaker on the back, saying, "Finally, someone who dares to say it." Confrontation, an optional scene. If desired, the heroes can engage in a battle of words with Rudyev. After an exchange of arguments at the table, make a competitive check using persuasion discussion. The heroes can also decide to rebuke the man more violently, in which case sufficient conscripts use mercenary stats, join him to give each hero one opponent. After no more than 10 combat rounds, I think, the guards on duty appear and end the brawl. If the heroes do not release Rudyev, they are thrown out of the barracks. Here's his stats. The purpose of this scene is to show off the Alliance of Course Sign ideology is more in common in the Bjornland than the heroes might think, even though they do not know what to do about it yet. Rudyev enjoys the protection afforded by his military status, something he will still possess if the heroes meet him later as part of Festumer's group. If the heroes defeat Rudyev, they disrupt the Alliance's plans without even knowing it, and therefore have fewer enemies to defeat later. Rudyev should survive the adventure. Some individuals from the Hardiner's barracks join the Alliance of Course Sign later in the campaign, giving the false impression that Bilgund and her conscripts are enemies. skirmishes and negotiations. So looks like we're into the next part. So I think we're going to call it here. It's been about an hour. Thank you for those of you who have joined. Again, we're reading through the Dark Eyes White Lake adventure, which is the first of the Theater Knights adventure. And we're reading through this because the Theater Knights campaign will be wrapped up in the Gods of Aventuria Kickstarter, which is running, which is going to run, crowdfunding, not Kickstarter, since it's going to be on Game on Tabletop. It's going to be July 21st through the 11th. So be on the lookout for that. But that's why we're reading these, because these are going to be some of the adventures that are included as part of that crowdfunding. So if you have never picked them up before, you can get hard copies on our store at ulysses-us.com, or you can get the PDFs on Drive-Thru RPG. For Ulysses Spiel, I'm Robert Adichie. We'll see you Wednesday. Bye-bye.